Hello everybody, my name is Ruth. I just left Venus and my mission is to help us all remember the beautiful cosmic beings that we are. And today's video, I'm so excited to talk about the High Priestess in Tarot, the clitoris, and the hidden power of the feminine. And by the end of this video, I hope that these three things, I'll show you that these three things are one and the same. First off, where did I get the inspiration for this video? Yeah, the initial explanations of what the High Priestess symbolized wasn't really hitting for me. It was like mysterious, intuition, subconscious, mystery, I don't know. I was just like, but how? Why? You know, I love asking why and how, like breaking things down. I'm like, how does this image of a woman in a blue robe sitting on a stone throne in front of a veil between two pillars, like guarding the water, how does that all come together to mean what you were telling me it means? And like the way that it clicked for me is that the High Priestess is literally a clit. I'm gonna just let that breathe. The High Priestess is a clit. And through I'm gonna break this card down for you, bringing in other sources. If I don't convince you by the end of this video, you'd still have like a good grasp of the symbolism that hides in this card or that lives within this card, and it won't all be for naught. So stick with me. And then, okay, before I dive in, literally dive into the waters of the High Priestess, I am going to be using the word woman and feminine a lot during this video, with the full knowledge that femininity is a spectrum. The womanhood and the feminine experience is a spectrum, a wide spectrum. So I'm saying it at the top here so I don't have to add a caveat to everything I said. Got it? Good. All right. First off, let's contextualize the High Priestess within the rest of the tarot. So High Priestess is number 2. And if you remember from my last video when I went into numerology, 2, let's start, okay, 1 is matter, 2 is duality. 2 introduces contrast. 2 also is a mirror. It reflects. Because it shows contrast, like by definition, it is a mirror. It shows you things. And okay, I have this book here called Meditations on the Tarot, A Journey into Christian Hermeticism. By an unknown author, I think. But yeah, I picked this up like a couple years ago, and I didn't really understand it. The writing style is a little bit dense, but I read this, I picked it up again to see what they talk about the High Priestess. There's like a meditation on all the major arcana, and I like what this author talks about duality, so I'm just gonna read it. Duality, therefore, signifies the establishment of 2 centers of contemplation, 2 separate and rival principles, one real and the other apparent. And this is the origin of evil, which is only a legitimate twofoldness. Is this the only possible interpretation of duality? Twofoldness, the number 2? Does there not exist a legitimate twofoldness? A twofoldness which does not signify the diminution of unity, but rather its qualitative enrichment. Okay, that was a lot. Let me try to explain what my interpretation of these words are. So, okay, 1 is unity, and you think that by adding on 2 takes away from that unity, because like it's not 1 anymore. And when I say it, I'm talking about something like really vague. Don't try to like conceptualize. I'm talking like in the ether, if that makes any sense. But 1 is unity, just like there's nothing else. Everything is just 1. So So this author is saying like two comes in, and oftentimes our definitions of duality is like duality takes away from unity, because how can there be unity if there's more than one thing? If that makes any sense. But this author like really, they said something that I never thought of before. Two doesn't take away from unity, it enhances it. So I'm gonna say that again. Two doesn't take away from one, it enhances it. Too often we treat duality as two separate things, like two halves of a whole maybe, but in reality we should treat it as like two wholes coming together. So yeah, let me bring this down to an example. So the masculine and the feminine. In like a duality way of looking at existence, we would say that masculine and feminine are two sides of the same coin. But this way of thinking of like duality enhancing unity, if we look at it through that lens, then masculine and feminine are one in and of themselves, and they come together to create two. They're two wholes in and of themselves. Another example is love. So love within like the view of unity is just love, and we don't really have a conception of what love really means. And it goes back to that, like why are we here? And it's for God to experience God's self. God can't know God's self without others. So same thing with love. There's two facets of love. There's the person who's loving and the person that is loved. Doing, being, or you could also say receiving. But there's doing, so just those two acts come together to enhance our definition of what love is, to really deepen the concept of love. So you can see from the unity lens, love is just like love, this blob. But two comes in, if you look at it through the lens of two kind of enhances or deepens that understanding of what love is, because we're able to love and we're able to be loved. Okay, duality. So let's bring this back to the tarot. The High Priestess comes after the one card of the Magician. The Magician is the card of, manifestation, among other things, like willing things into existence, bringing things down from the ether into form, giving form to that which does not have form. That's a one. This is the doing card, really masculine. Two is the High Priestess, really feminine. Receiving is the being. It's not the doing of the Magician, it's the being. Okay, this sounds really weird. The High Priestess is not doing, it's being. She's being, the High Priestess is being in her beingness. This is femininity. This is two. Great, we got the numbers down. So let me dive deep into the actual imagery of the High Priestess. What do we see here? We see the High Priestess dressed in blue robes, seated on a stone throne in front of a veil, hung up between one white pillar and one black pillar. And it's as if she's guarding a vast body of water. I mean, we don't really see the water, we see peaks of the water, but we can imagine, we can extrapolate that it's like this huge expanse, this vast expanse. She doesn't move from her throne, she's just sitting there. It's like in stone, when I think of stone, stone is immovable, it's there. And she's just kind of sitting there in her beingness. She has this knowledge to share for those who have ears to listen, or ears to hear and eyes to see. You know that verse from the Bible? And it's like, if you don't resonate, then you don't resonate. She's not gonna move. She's like unchanging. She's just like there sitting in her high priestessly glory. And okay, blue, there's a lot of blue on this card. And blue is virginal. Like I see this and like I think of the Virgin Mary, the imagery of the Virgin Mary that we have had for centuries or millennia at this point. And even not even just a Virgin Mary, just like mothers as an archetype. So blue is virginal. Blue is also the color of the water, and the water is just like, water is like the symbol that really brings this card together. So let's dive in, no pun intended. She's blue like the water because she is the water. Water begets life. You can't have life without water. Water represents a baptism, an initiation, a reinitiation. Water reflects. So remember what I talked about earlier about how duality is like a mirror. So is water. Water acts as a mirror. Whenever we look like over, like, I don't know, like a river, we're able to see ourselves. Like the water reflects back what it gets. Also, water changes its shape to fit its receptacle. So it's begging this formless element that we're blessed with on this earth, is begging. It gives so much life, but it's also begging for form. It's just goes all over the place if it doesn't have form. Yeah, you can take this, you can extrapolate this to water elements like water signs in astrology. Water symbolizes the emotions. Water is formless. It's like the subconscious, and I understand why this card represents the subconscious, because how can you describe the subconscious? It's just kind of like formless. It just goes all over the place. It's the way that I like to think about the subconscious, but such is water. Next, we have the veil, which is hiding the water. And the water, as I said before, represents the unconscious or the subconscious. I don't really know. I know there's a difference, but for purposes of this video, I'm not making a difference. Just the opposite of conscious. So this veil, I could see this representing the veil of forgetting that we all here and incarnated on this earth, we are all going through, or we went through cosmic amnesia of our cosmic origins, of our godly origins, of our royal origins, that we are creators, we are gods, we are God. But the veil, you know, veils are thin. I have a veil, right? Well, it's not really a veil, but it's like a scarf. But you see, like, you can still see through it. It's thin. Like I saw something online on social media about how like the veil, somebody was like making fun of the saying, oh, veil is thinning, so indicating or insinuating that, like, you know, people are waking up, whatever. But this person on social media was like, okay, but veils are thin. They're made to be pierced. Like, the veil is thinning doesn't really make sense because the veil is already thin. And this is what, yeah, that's what the veil of forgetting is. It's like, we think, we as humans incarnated on this earth, we think that like we're blocked from the rest of the universe, the rest of, I don't know, I just think that the material world blinds us. But it's like if we increase our awareness, if we open up our eyes, open up our ears, open up our other senses, we're able to pierce through the veil, or just like push it aside and access the beautiful water that awaits us, that is in us. Okay, so that's the veil. The veil is thin. The veil is like barely guarding the water. So like we could easily access it. But I also want to draw attention to the pattern on the veil. So we see fruits, pomegranates, seeds. When I think of when I see pomegranates, I automatically think of the myth of Persephone and her trips to the underworld with Hades, all of that. And also seeds. Seeds represent also like seed, like semen, sperm. I associate that with life. It's just more imagery to support that this is, I don't know, possibly sexual in nature, because, you know, a lot of fruits, with this pomegranate especially, looks like a vagina. I'll just say that, it looks like a vagina. And also, I'm not gonna touch on this further, but the veil has the pattern that the way that the pomegranates are arranged, it's arranged in the same pattern of the tree of life in Kabbalah. And I would just recommend looking into that, especially looking in and seeing what the High Priestess is blocking on the tree of life. That also has some importance, or has a lot of importance. Okay, so we have the veil. The veil is being held up by two pillars. A black pillar with a B on it, which stands for Boaz, and a white pillar with a J on it, which stands for Yakin. These pillars are very phallic in nature, also black-white, duality, contrast. Shout out to my namesake Ruth in the Bible. Boaz is her second husband, and Boaz and Ruth they're the ancestors of David and eventually Jesus. I just want to shout out Boaz and Ruth, my namesake, here. Let's talk about the robes, her blue robes, the High Priestess's robes. They're just so voluminous, so extra. It's like, why does she need that many robes, or like that much fabric? All right, let's turn our attention to what the High Priestess is holding underneath all her robes. And okay, she's holding the Torah, the law, on her right side, but some of it remains hidden along with her right hand. And only the left hand is visible. Only her left hand is visible. Left hand, the left side, often represents the feminine. We also see on the bottom of her robes, which look like water, her robes flow like water, there's a moon there. And the moon waxes and wanes. So the moon in this card, I think of each woman's monthly period, and the period kind of is like our own personal lunar cycles, because a lot of times they last like around 28 days, give or take, the same length of time as the lunar cycle. I mean, we call it our cycle, so this is our moon. This also cinches together the fact that the High Priestess card represents the feminine, the hidden power of the feminine. So next, I want to talk about another version of this card that inspired this video, and it's the after tarot depiction of the High Priestess. So the whole premise for this deck, the author and the illustrator imagined these scenes of the tarot like seconds after the initial Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. The after tarot card, there's some key differences. In the after tarot, we see that the High Priestess is no longer hiding her right hand. Her right hand kind of peeks out or comes out, and we see that she's holding, in addition to the law, the Torah, she's holding two keys. Also, the moon changes. The moon changes, like it goes from, I don't know, waxing. If we say that the initial card, the moon was waxing, the after tarot depiction, the moon is waning. Then you could switch it, whatever. There's also, in the after tarot depiction, there's more water. It just flows out. Okay, this is where I'm going to transition into, okay, why do I think why do I think that the High Priestess is a clit? Before I mentioned about like the amount of fabric that this High Priestess is wearing, I didn't notice it before, but when I saw this after tarot depiction, I was just like, oh, I get it. And if you think of her robes as like the labia minora or majora, possibly, damn, I don't even know. What would it be? It would be the lips. It's like the lips of a vagina, of a vulva, of the genital, the female genitalia. And it was just very clear. And then if you think of her crown, I didn't even go into the crown that she's wearing, but it's very distinct. And there's like it's like a circle there. And I see that as the clit. That's the head, that's the seat of power. And what is the high priestess doing? She's sitting in her power. That is what the clit does. I'm gonna read to you the etymology of the clitoris. Perhaps from Greek klein, which means to sheathe, also to shut, in reference to its being covered by the labia minora. The related Greek noun, kleis, has a secondary meaning, quote, a key, a latch, or a hook to close a door. So, first off, menorah, labia minora. I know it's different, but like the same sounds, menorah, you know, the menorah, it has the candles that in the Jewish tradition, people celebrate Hanukkah. There's 8 candles, there's 1 in the middle, and then there's the 7 surrounding it. I don't know, maybe that's like, I haven't looked into it, just came to me right now, but menorah, okay? Also, the related Greek noun, kleis, has a secondary meaning, a key. And what do we see in the after tarot depiction? She's holding keys. I want to bring your attention to like what a vagina looks like. In case you don't know, in case you don't know. So yeah, the vagina is like ridged, they're folds, and we see in this in the High Priestess card, the folds of the vagina imitate waves, ripples, and produces the moon. And in the card we talked about the moon representing the period. Also, vagina, we want a wet vagina. When you get aroused, your vagina gets lubricated, and that prepares the vagina, the uterus, to give life. What happens when we're about to give birth? The water breaks. There's just like so much water. Like water and the feminine are one and the same. Okay. So I said the High Priestess is sitting in her throne, sitting in her power. So too does the clit. The clit is not going to make itself known to you or like your partner just because you want it to. You kind of have to work for it. And you need to be gentle, patient, welcoming enough for it to want to come out. I mean, I know like the clit, I don't know, I see it as like this living being that gets awakened by those who know how to awaken it. You're not going to awaken the clit. You're not going to enjoy the true fruits of the feminine by like rubbing on it and like pray to God that like your DJ motions, your record scratching skills are going to make the woman come. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work from sheer will. The clit is going to come out through patience, through slowness, through thoroughness, through a sense of safety. That is what the clit is. What I love about the High Priestess, she's sitting on her throne. She has the answer. She has the keys to the kingdom. She holds the keys. She holds the secrets. But she's not going around like telling everybody, hey, I have the answer. I have the key to life. I have the divine answer to all your cosmic existentialist questions. Like no, that's for other people to do. But that's not in her cosmic soul mission. The cosmic soul mission of the High Priestess is to sit in her beingness. She's not necessarily waiting. That's the true power of this card. Like she's not waiting. She's not begging for you to love her. She's not begging for you to come and like finally listen to her. She's just there, and she knows of the immense power that she holds in her right hand, and she's sitting in front of this vast expanse of water, which is like the subconscious, this huge, powerful vault that a lot of us forget to even like delve into, but it's right there for us. And she's giving you the keys. She's giving you the keys. And you just have to have like the awareness to be open enough to where you find those keys. Speaking of keys, every woman has her own unique set of keys. Every woman's key is different. What turns on one woman is not going to turn on another. That's why I'm like, why do people say that they're good in bed? I'm like, I would understand I would believe you if you're good and bad, if like you enjoy sex like on a fundamental level, like you enjoy the act of sex. But if it's like you're good and bad because you do this one move, like that move might have brought somebody to climax before, but there's no guarantee it's gonna bring another person pleasure or to climax. So like, let's stop with that rhetoric like I'm good and bad. If anybody says that, I literally call BS. So every woman has her own unique key, and I also like, I like to go further. Every woman has their own direct channel to God. And I talked about this before in my video, but truly I believe that the orgasm is our direct channel to God, to the divine. And like the clit, I mean, you can have orgasms from different parts of your genitalia, but and that's not to say I don't believe in orgasm superiority or there's like a hierarchy. But yeah, I mean, the clit is sometimes like, that's what a lot of us started exploring with. So the clit is a direct channel to God. And thinking of partnered sex, what would happen if you got the key, if you got to like experience God through a woman? What would you do with the keys? What would you do with that access to the divine? Will the veil finally fall away from you? Like, that's why I love to see like sex as this beautiful, sacred act between yourself, the different parts of yourself, or with another person. It's like a reunification of your separate selves. Ooh, ooh, I love that. That's what sex does. That's what the orgasm helps us heal. It helps us heal our separate selves. It helps us bring those together, because we're like, it channels us, it pivots us, propels us to God. Okay, so direct channel to God. That sounds really like, wow, that's so cool, I want to experience that. But I want to like talk about, that's why rape, sexual assault is so profane, because you're trying to access something that you don't have any right to access. You're trying to take something that's not yours, and you can't cheat your way to enlightenment. I believe there's some like divine consequences. I don't think that you're gonna necessarily go to hell, but you're going to experience those divine consequences in your waking life if you try to take those keys, if you try to break your way into a woman's sacred temple. That's how I think of a woman's body parts, or like, that's, yeah, the female genitalia. It's just like a huge maze, and there's so much mystery surrounding it. Much like the High Priestess, she represents the mystical, the unseen, intuition, the mysterious. So, and that's what is associated a lot with the female genitalia. Like, I need a mirror to look at it. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, it's really profane. It's against nature. It's damaging, not only to the woman that you assaulted, raped, but to yourself. Because what you do to other people, you do to yourself. So I have no sympathy for people who try to cheat their way there or try to go against nature. You are literally like trying to damage or hurt, cause pain against the High Priestess. That's never gonna work out well for you. To deepen this a little bit, the way that I describe my orgasm, it's like in a cage, and only like certain select few people can have the keys to unlock that cage. And like there's like I don't want to call it a monster or a beast. I'll just call her. She wants to come out. She's in her cage. She's been like caged in, trapped, bored, and she wants to come out and play. And like that's why I think of it as like getting keys to access a sacred part of you, the deepest part of you, your temple. And I don't think that every single time you have sex, like that person's not going to gain automatic entry to your temple. I see like the temple, or the keys to the temple, is the orgasm. It's like, do I feel safe enough to climax with you? Does my orgasm feel safe enough to come out and play? If so, thank you for helping me get her out, and you can enjoy her as I enjoy her. Let her run free, let her wild nature just roam. And this is all within, I just see the clit as this powerful, like she's guarding, the High Priestess is guarding the clit. Or she is, you could see her as guarding the clit. She is the clit, she's one and the same. I don't know, but she just has this immense power that she's guarding, which is the divine, which is God, which is subconscious. I want to end this video by talking, like contextualizing the High Priestess again within the tarot. And we're going to talk about the Trinity. I talked about the Trinity before in my last video. But okay, we have the Magician, number one, doing. We have the High Priestess, feminine, being. Okay, 1 and 2. What comes after 1 and 2? What is resulting from that? 3, the Empress, the symbol of creation. This is like the primordial Trinity. And in some depictions, the Empress is pregnant. I don't know if it's like apparent here if she's pregnant, but this is like a fractal of creation. We see like the triangle, the Trinity, Father, Mother, Child, and the child is pregnant. It just symbolizes the infinite internal nature of creation, the spiral aspect of creation just keeps on going on. And as we see in the Empress, there's water flowing on the edge of the scene, and that water, you could see it throughout all of I think it's most of the major arcana. The water flows, so you see how powerful the High Priestess is. The first mother, she is giving her water, her divine education, she's giving her divine knowledge to all of her descendants. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about Two of Swords. Shares some similarities with the High Priestess. There's both water, in both scenes there's a moon. On the Two of Swords, the figure is sitting on a stone throne. But in the Two of Swords, there's like water. There's water, but there are rocks in the water. It's not smooth. There's not the vast expanse that we see in the High Priestess. Also, the moon is outside of the figure. It's not one and the same with the figure as in the High Priestess. And I think the Two of Swords represents a lot of our struggles to exist in this 3D reality. Like the Two of Swords, the figure in the Two of Swords is blindfolded, and they have two swords over their heart. And it's just kind of like we blind ourselves and we block ourselves from our heart. And we see the moon as separate from us, but then because we forget that the moon is part of us. Much like the High Priestess. The High Priestess, the moon is one and the same with the High Priestess. It's part of her robes. And a lot of this card kind of symbolizes we're trying to decide between two paths, or we're stuck, we're blocked. But I think a lot of times the tarot depicts scenes of people who like put themselves in that situation. Like the devil, I talked about before, they have shackles that are loosely around their necks. They could literally just take it off. 8 of Swords, I think, or 9 of Swords, I forget. But one of those swords, there's another one, they're blindfolded and they're surrounded by swords, which could represent their thoughts, their own thoughts. But they're not tied tightly, and they can clearly cut what's binding them and cut free their hands and undo the blindfold. There's a lot of like blindfolding, there's a lot of blinding ourselves, a lot of like veiling that's happening. We think the blindfold is thicker than it is. It's not. The blindfold, the cloth that ties our hands together that we bind ourselves with, that's our own thoughts. just as easily we could turn those thoughts, those negative thoughts, into, okay, let me not say negative, we could turn those thoughts that are not helpful to us into thoughts that are helpful to us. What do I mean by this? This is kind of like the subconscious. The High Priestess is guarding the water, the vast expanse of the subconscious. The subconscious, we could also talk about it from a Jungian, I think Carl Jung came up with the collective unconscious. Like everything, all of human knowledge, our stories, our imaginations live in this collective unseen place, the collective unconscious. This is where works of art are born. This is where we get the inspiration to write songs, to write stories, to write screenplays, to create pottery. I don't know, anything that you could think of, it exists already. If you think of the world in that way, that we're just pulling from the collective unconscious. Nothing really is new. It's new in this material world, but it already existed somewhere. The High Priestess is guarding this, and the High Priestess tells us that the collective unconscious is not something that's separate from us, like in the Two of Swords that we see. It's one and the same with us. Like we have to just go within to access that. All of us have a feminine nature. All of us have this High Priestess within us. Also, hidden power of the feminine. Let me go back to the hidden power. The clit is hidden among like so many folds. Like people don't know where to find it. But literally, she's like the High Priestess. She's just like right there waiting for you to find her and to listen to her, to pay her attention. She has so much knowledge she wants to pass on to you. Oh, I also go into like the hidden power of the feminine in my first workshop, or I call it a voyage beyond Venus, voyage to OSUN. You could instantly access that voyage, that workshop on my website. And I talk more about the hidden power of the feminine. OSUN is like another face of the feminine. She's a goddess in the Yoruba tradition, Orisha. But I go into that a little bit more. So if you're interested, go to my website. Yeah, High Priestess, like I think once you open your eyes, like you could see the divine in anything and everything. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. Like there's just magic living in all of us, or there's magic living everywhere. We just need to recognize it. And we can find the clit, the vagina, and anywhere, like wherever we look, you can make the connection. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you look at the High Priestess in a deeper way. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I love you for watching, and I hope you have continue having a wonderful journey on this earth. I will talk to you soon. Bye.